Hey there, Benjamin from LoveStarter here, welcome back. In this video I'm going to answer the question, what are the options for filtering data in Google Analytics? And I'm going to show you different techniques you can use with both Google Analytics 4, GA4 and Universal Analytics. We're already looking at Google's GA4 demo property, so let's start by looking at ways we can filter data in GA4. If you're using Universal Analytics or would like to jump to another topic in this video, then I've included links in the description below. Okay, the first way we can filter data in GA4 is to apply a comparison to one of the standard reports. So let's navigate to Reports. We're looking at the report snapshot, and on the top right corner we can select the Edit Comparisons icon. This shows us the data included in the report is for all of the users accessing our website. Let's click the three vertical dots and select Edit Comparison. We can now change the way users are included or excluded from the standard reports by adjusting the conditions. For example, let's say we only want to include people located in a particular country. We can select Audience Name and change this to Country. We can then select the country or countries we want to include in our report. Then we click OK and click Apply. The report updates, and now we're only seeing users that match our condition. And now that we've applied our comparison, this will continue to be applied to all of the reports in the report section until we travel to another area in Google Analytics. For example, if we travel to Acquisition and then Traffic Acquisition, our comparison will still be applied. However, if we navigate to Explore or we log out of Google Analytics and come back later, then the comparison will be removed and we'll need to apply it again. You can also use comparisons to compare up to 4 different types of segments you create. And apart from filtering based on country, there are more options you can choose from. Let's edit the comparison to take a look. Other options for creating comparisons include other demographics like age, gender, language, and city. If you've registered custom dimensions, then you can use these to create comparisons in GA4. There are also options based on the devices people use. The host name and page, these are useful if you want to filter based on particular sections of your website, like a particular domain you're tracking or a particular folder or set of pages on your website. And there are also options to filter based on how people are finding your website. So comparisons let you filter the standard reports, but remember you will need to reconfigure them each time you use Google Analytics, so they can become a bit frustrating if you need to filter your data often. The next option is to search within a report. This is useful if you already know what you're looking for in a report. Let's select Engagement and then Pages and Screens. This report shows us all of the pages people have viewed on our website. Let's change the default dimension to Page Path. Let's say we just want to see the pages included in the lifestyle section of the website. We can search for lifestyle, and all the pages that contain lifestyle are now shown in the report. If you regularly need to filter data in GA4, then one of the best options is to create an exploration report. So let's select Explore. In this video, I'm going to use one of Google's templates, but if you would like to learn more about the exploration reports in GA4, then I've included links to my tutorials in the description below, and I also cover exploration reports in my GA4 complete course. Okay, let's select Freeform. This loads Google's template, and we can see this shows us metrics broken down by city. Let's change the dimension from city to country. There are 2 ways you can filter data in your exploration reports. You can apply a filter to the report to limit what is included in the report, and you can also apply segments. Segments are designed so that you can compare different sections of your audience, but they're also useful for including or excluding particular users from your report. Let's start by applying a filter. You'll find the filter option at the bottom of the second menu. Let's select Country. We can then choose the matching for the filter. Let's select Exactly Matches, and then enter United States as the value. And click Apply. We can see the table updates and it only includes people located in the United States. The nice thing about applying a filter to an exploration report is that it will always be applied, so whenever you use the report, it will continue to be filtered. Let's make a note of the total number of active users that are included based on our filter. Now let's adjust the report. Let's remove device category from columns. And let's change rows from country to device category. We can now see each row shows us the number of active users based on the device they're using. So this means the filter is still being applied even though we're not including the country dimension directly in the table. Okay, now let's apply a segment to our report. Segments provide additional flexibility compared to filters. And as I previously mentioned, apart from letting you filter data, you can apply multiple segments to create comparisons. Let's click the plus sign next to Segments. We can see there are different types of segments we can create. We can create event, session, and user-based segments. In this video, we're going to focus on user-based segments, but to learn more about the segmentation options in GA4, check out my dedicated tutorial. I've included a link in the description below this video. Okay, so let's select User Segment. Let's name the segment New York Users. Then let's select Add New Condition and search for and select City. Now let's click Add Filter. Leave Exactly Matches and select New York, New York as the value. Then click Apply. And let's save the segment. Now let's create another segment. Let's select User Segment again and name the segment San Francisco Users. Then let's select Add New Condition and search for and select City. Now let's click Add Filter. Leave Exactly Matches and select San Francisco, California as the value. Then click Apply. And let's save the segment. We can now see the two segments side by side in our exploration report, and the filter we created earlier is still applied. I want to show you that segments also filter our data, so let's take a note of the total number of users. We can see the total is 1,252. And let's remove the filter from our report. We can see the total number of users is still 1,252, so filters and segments can both be used to narrow the focus of your reports. Another way you can filter your reports is by creating audience lists. Audience lists let you define particular sections of traffic and are very similar to segments. The nice thing about audience lists is that once you've created them, you can make use of them when you create comparisons in the standard reports and in your exploration reports. For example, we can enable the audience name dimension in our exploration report. And then use this to create a filter for our report. And let's navigate back to Reports. Edit the comparison. Click the three vertical dots and choose Edit Comparison. If you've already created an audience, then you can select the name of your audience under Dimension Values. You can view audiences that have already been configured in GA4 by navigating to Configure, and then Audiences. You can then see all of the available audiences for your property. You will need edit level permission to create new audiences. Since I don't have edit level permission for Google's demo property, there is no option to create a new audience. To learn more about creating audiences in GA4, check out my dedicated tutorial. I've included a link in the description below this video. One of the most common reasons to filter data coming into your reports is to exclude your own traffic. To do this, you'll also need edit level permission. Let's head to my GA4 demo property to see how we can filter internal traffic. There are 2 steps to filtering your own traffic from reports. Let's start by selecting Data Streams. Choose the data stream you want to filter. Scroll to the bottom and select More Tagging Settings. Then select the option to define internal traffic. Let's click Create. We can name our rule. And we can then choose the way we want to match our IP address or range. Then we need to enter our IP address. This rule will automatically add an extra parameter to all of the events being collected by Google Analytics. The parameter is traffic type, and the value will be set to internal when the event is associated with our IP address. Now let's click Create. Now that we've created a rule for our data stream, we need to filter the traffic from our property. So let's navigate back and select Data Settings, then Data Filters. Now let's create a filter and choose Internal Traffic. Let's name the filter Exclude Internal Traffic. We can see the filter will exclude all traffic when the traffic type parameter has a value of internal. So the rule we previously created will add this based on our IP address, and then this filter will prevent the events from flowing into our reports. There is an option to test the filter, but to prevent the data from appearing in your reports, you'll want to change this to Active, and then create the filter. Moving forward, we will be excluding our own traffic from our reports. You only need to create this filter once, and all events that have the traffic type parameter set to internal will be excluded. GA4 also lets you modify some data as it flows into your reports by modifying events. Let's navigate to Configure, then Events. Since I have edit level permission, at the top we can see there is an option to modify events. Let's select this. And let's click Create. This feature lets us match particular events that are being collected into Google Analytics. And we can then modify parameters that are sent with the event. For example, we can add additional parameters and adjust the value of parameters as they're collected into Google Analytics. Now that we've covered filtering options for Google Analytics 4, GA4, let's head to Google's Universal Analytics demo. And let's navigate to Acquisition, then All Traffic, and let's select Source Medium. This report shows us the different source and medium combinations people use to find the website. Above the table, we can search within the report. Let's enter CPC. The report updates to only include source and medium combinations that include cost per click traffic. Now let's add a secondary dimension. Let's add landing page. This adds the first page people see when they travel through to the website. But let's say we want cost per click traffic and we want to focus on a particular section of the website. To do this, we can use an advanced table filter. And let's add a dimension. Let's add landing page. And let's enter lifestyle. And click apply. We've now filtered the report to only include cost per click traffic that lands on a page in the lifestyle section of the website. A feature in Universal Analytics that I really like is the ability to save the customizations we've made as a shortcut. To do this, let's scroll to the top and click Save. We can name our customization. And click OK. This now means we can get back to the report with the advanced table filter applied by selecting Customization and then Saved Reports. Apart from filtering the standard reports, you can also apply filters to custom reports in Universal Analytics. Let's select Custom Reports. And let's open the report called US Traffic and Landing Pages. This is a report I created earlier. It shows us the landing pages for users located in the United States. Let's click Edit on the top right corner to see how it was created. Towards the bottom, you can see there is an option to add filters to the custom report. So you can add filters to a custom report in Universal Analytics. They're a bit like the filters we saw in GA4. If you click Add Filter, you can see the different dimensions you can use to filter your reports. You can also apply similar filters to custom dashboards created in Universal Analytics. Just head to Dashboards, add a widget, and look for the filtering option. Apart from filters applied to custom reports and dashboards, you can also use segments in a similar way to what we saw in GA4. Let's take a look. Let's head to Audience, then Geo, then Location. Now let's select all users at the top of the report. Let's deselect this default segment. And let's choose System on the left. This includes all of the default segments that are provided by Google. Now let's select Mobile Traffic and click Apply. The report updates, and now we're just looking at the geographic location of people using mobile devices to access the website. Again, we've filtered the data in the report. Segments are really flexible, so to learn even more, I recommend checking out my dedicated tutorial in the description below this video. Finally, I want to touch on view filters in Universal Analytics. Let's head to my Universal Analytics demo property. View filters in Universal Analytics let you permanently modify data as it flows into your reports. View filters only work after you've created them, and they permanently modify data. You will need edit level permission to create them. If you do, then you can select Filters, and then Add Filter. Selecting Custom, and then selecting the Filter field shows you all of the different dimensions you can use to create view filters in Universal Analytics. View filters provide more flexibility than the filtering options currently available in GA4. This is because these filters can be used to include, exclude, and modify data in your reports. However, I recommend proceeding with caution because, as I mentioned, they will permanently modify data flowing into your reports. To learn more about view filters, check out the extra resources in the description below this video. So there are different ways you can filter data in Google Analytics, including GA4 and Universal Analytics. Remember, in GA4 you can use comparisons and you can apply filters and segments to your exploration reports. While in Universal Analytics you can use advanced table filters, you can filter custom reports, and you can apply permanent filters to your reporting views. And apart from filtering directly inside Google Analytics, you can also filter data before it comes into Google Analytics using Google Tag Manager. And you can also filter data after it's in Google Analytics using Google Data Studio and Google Sheets. That might be a good topic for a future video. What filters are you using in Google Analytics? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, please like it so I know to make more videos like this one. I'll see you in the next video.